one of the most manipulative moves that this board has made.
Frustration and fury inside last night's JCPS board meeting as members voted to cut transportation for thousands of Louisville students. In a 4-3 vote, the board passed the controversial new transportation plan.
That new plan will cut transportation to magnet and traditional schools with some exceptions. Magnet and traditional high schools where 75% or more of students qualify for free and reduced lunches will still have bus service. That includes Central and Western high schools. JCPS says it evaluated 16 different transportation plans and narrowed the choices to 4 options for last night's vote. Board members who support the new plan say without this change, Black and brown students will continue to be disproportionately impacted under the district's current setup.
Personally, I cannot sit on this vote any longer knowing that we're depriving 30,000 kids of instructional time.
Board members who oppose the new plan say it will inadvertently resegregate a large swath of Louisville's public schools.
But the community has to have buy-in for what we push forward to, because we're already fractured enough.
This just feels like an outcome that is going to provide the lack of education, of quality education, that these schools provide and afford children who may not have this opportunity.
The new plan will still cut transportation for some 14,000 JCPS students. Right now, JCPS says it has about 569 bus routes with just 553 drivers. Around 50 report absent each day. The latest projections found that after call-ins, the district will have about 475 drivers each day next school year.
And following this decision and calling JCPS a district in crisis, leaders of the NAACP want Superintendent Dr. Marty Polio to resign.
If you're not going to provide transportation to those magnet schools, what you're basically saying is all kids in our community do not get the opportunity to go to some of the best schools in our district.
On it saying making tough decisions like this one is never easy.
I care about this district. I've been here for 29 years. I respect the NAACP. I do. I've worked with them. So, you know, it is just a decision that there are no good options for, and I wish I didn't have to make. Wish we could do every school, but we're just so short on our folks right now, and in every rural area, it's just not feasible.
And to see the other options the district was looking at, you can read about them more in depth in this story on our website, WHAS11.com.
Some other news here this morning. We now know when former Clark County Sheriff Jamie Knowles' trial will start. Judge Larry Metlock set a date for Wednesday, November the 6th. This comes after the judge found Knowles in contempt of court Tuesday, sending him to jail for 60 days. One of Knowles' initial bond conditions required him to surrender his weapons, except for one shotgun. However, investigators found 2 handguns in his basement during a search last month. Prosecutor Rick Hurdle says he believes Knowles will have the same bond conditions when released. He's currently being held at the Scott County Jail.
Jamarcus Glover, a key figure in the Breonna Taylor death investigation, will be behind bars longer than originally expected. He was in court yesterday for a revocation hearing. Glover was on probation until he was recently arrested for multiple drug-related charges. Last month, the judge sentenced him to 7 years in prison for charges dating back to July of 2020. Well, yesterday, a judge added another year to that sentence for violating his parole. Glover is still facing more drug-related charges. He's expected back in court in May. Police were executing a warrant for Glover the night Breonna Taylor was killed.
The mother accused of killing her 5-year-old child and leaving him in a suitcase in Washington County, Indiana, will have to undergo a mental evaluation. The court ordered it to determine Dejon Anderson's competency to stand trial. Anderson faces several charges, including murder and neglect of a child. She went on the run for nearly 2 years after her son, Cairo Jordan, was found dead in a suitcase. During that time, Anderson claims she was under surveillance by the NSA for several months, with the Space Force also tracking her movements. She was arrested in California last month and extradited back to Indiana.
6:07, turning 6:08 now, and for all intents and purposes, John Calipari is now the former head coach of the University of Kentucky. He'll head to Arkansas to coach the Razorbacks. Now, despite reports, Calipari said he didn't know for sure that he'd take the job until Monday. He met with the school's athletics director in Phoenix last Friday. Calipari says it only took them 15 minutes to hammer out the details of his contract. He said he struggled with the decision to leave Kentucky and says he turned to a priest for some help. Calipari's new deal is 5 years and worth $7 million per season. That's a pay cut from what he was getting at Kentucky. That deal also includes $1 million signing bonus.
Ben, let's